Alright, hi guys, this is Srinivas Man, and today I'm going to be walking you guys through how I make assets for Microsoft Flight Simulator in Blender from beginning to end. So this is going to be kind of an intermediate level Blender tutorial, so if you're not familiar at all with the UI, I suggest starting with somebody else like Blender Guru. That's who I learned Blender from way back in the day. And yeah, just to kind of give myself some credibility, I'm a experienced Blender user. I'm not a professional at all, so some of my methods are a little bit hacky. But the stuff I've made works. I've made more than a few scenery packs for Flight Simulator now. Links in the description. You should definitely check them out. I put a lot of time and effort into them. And if you find this content very useful or you really like my scenery, feel free to support me with the PayPal link in the description. I'd really appreciate that. Okay, so with no further ado, let's just kind of get into the process. So let's start by... So today I'm going to be making LaGuardia, or I'm going to start my LaGuardia project. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to head into Google Maps. And right now I'm going to just try and get an idea of what it is I want to do. What do I want to do, and how am I going to get my reference images? Right, so LaGuardia is here somewhere. I could just search for it, but I guess I just didn't think of that. Okay, here's LaGuardia. Right, alright. So we've got a few different buildings. We've got some new construction stuff going on here. You can see the scaffolding. This is part of the new overhaul project. All this is old. I'm probably not going to make exactly what's here because this is, like I said, in the middle of construction. So I'll try and make something that's a little more like a finished product. But I'll try and make it as faithful to this as is reasonably acceptable. Okay, so let's first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a screenshot of this area. So this is just going to be my reference, and it's important to have these just to get a good idea of perspectives, not perspectives, of, well, it's just useful, right? You can see I already have one, but because I've already tried this once before, but I made some mistakes, so I'm just doing it again. Alright, so now let's hop into Blender. I've got the screencast keys extension up, so you can see what I'm doing. Panning right middle mouse button, scrolling with zoom, shift middle mouse button to look around. Like I said, if you wanna learn the basics of Blender, like how to look around, what objects are edit mode versus object mode, this video is not really for you, because I could explain that, but it would take way too long. Alright, and like I said, if you're confused about anything that I do, just check the screencast keys thing there, and if you have any more questions, please leave them down in the comments, and I can get them later. Alright, so what I've done there is I've just Shift A, add image, add reference, and added my image into this scene. Now you can see we've got our default cube and our image. So the next thing we want to do is we actually want to get this image to be the right size. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set my units here to be imperial. That's right, I'm an imperialist. I'm American. You can't make me feel bad. Great. So now let's check. So now basically what we want to do is we want to just get the dimensions of our image in Blender to be the same as they are in real life. So let's measure this distance from here to here. So these corner points, I'm going to start by making this curved terminal because it just seems like a reasonable place to start. So this is a distance of 1277 feet. So now I can go into this item menu and I can manually change the dimensions of my cube. I'm just going to make this 1277 feet. Okay, going back to top view, press the tilde and then, yeah, alright. Right, so basically I'm just trying to get it so that that same distance that I just measured in Google Maps is that same length in Blender. Alright, that looks, it's not exact, but it's good enough. It'll be off by a few feet, but that's not a big deal. And remember, worst case, I can always rescale stuff in Blender. So now see, actually, now this is so big that the Blender viewport is cutting it off. How do I fix that? I go into View, Clip, End. I'm going to just set that to like 10,000, something big, and now I can see everything. Alright, very cool. So now let's try and get a good idea of what this building looks like. This is one other nice thing about Blender, is you got photogrammetry data. And while you could rip from this and actually like just turn that into your model, it leaves a bit to be desired in terms of like actual accurate materials and also weird artifacts like this. So that's in general why I like these handmade models better, and if I can make them, I should, right? Alright, so let's see. So how am I going to do this? I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and start with a circle, cut off an edge of it, and then turn it into this kind of like semi-disc, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, it should soon. So let's start by let's add in a circle, and in this add circle thing, I'm actually going to up these vertices up to like, I'm going to add like maybe 100 vertices. And this is kind of, seems like overkill. It probably is. But what this does for me, I'm just going to scale it up with S and then drag out. What this does for me though, is when I delete like a good number of these vertices, because I will, because this isn't a full circle, this will still, it'll make it less blocky, if that makes sense. It'll make it a smoother building when I have more vertices there. Cool. Alright, so now you can see I got lots of different vertices. I'm pressing, so I'm in edit mode, so now I'm not editing the whole thing. Basically in object mode, right, you can see what mode you're in here. Object mode means you transform the entire mesh at one time. Edit mode means you can transform individual parts of the mesh, but that's vertices. If I want to transform faces, I press 2, and now I can 2. Right now I can select faces and move, edges. 2 is edges, I can select edges, move them around. 3 is faces. I actually don't have any faces here. But like I said, I'm going to say as little about that as I can, because that is for a beginner Blender tutorial, and this is not a beginner Blender tutorial. Alright, so here, I want to move this point on, I want to align these points with my reference image, but I could move each of them individually, but that could take a while and it would become less smooth. So I'm actually going to press O, which turns on proportional editing. And proportional editing basically, well, I'll show you what it does. If I use the zoom wheel, I can basically, yeah, you see that? So now instead of just moving a point, I'm actually moving multiple points in a curved fashion. And now I can get these smooth curves that actually go where I want them to. It's a pretty cool tool, and honestly, I didn't understand it until pretty recently. But yeah, that's it, and you can even change how smooth or whatever it is. Here, I'm going to press O to turn it back off. Right, so now I have my outline of my building from here to here. So now I'm going to press B to box select, and I'm going to select all of the points I don't want. And here I do want these points, so I'm going to deselect them. C is circle select, and if I press down Shift, I can click and drag over the points I don't want. So now I've selected everything I don't want, press X to delete and click vertices, and now they're gone. So now we just have a set of vertices that go like this. Right. Oh, I think I deleted one vertex too many, right. We'll delete these. Right, perfect. So now this is what we want. Head back into top view. Actually, you know what I can do here? Is I'll get one thing here in wireframe. So I press Z and I can change the way I look at it. So this is wireframe. This is actually solid, but because there's only an edge, you can't really tell. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically pull this out. I want this to make a face. So I'm going to use the extrude tool. I'm going to press A to select all and E to extrude. Okay, so now I'm actually going to extrude in the Y direction, so I can press Y so that it holds it. And now I just want this to be bigger, right? I want this to actually fill the area. Okay, so now I've got my edges lined up and stuff, but you're obviously thinking, hey, wait, but this isn't actually lining up. Right, so what can I do? I could move it in the Y direction, I could move it in the X direction, or I could just, actually, I could just scale it down. I don't know why I didn't. I was going to show you a trick, but the trick is more difficult than this was, so I was like, I don't need to do that. Alright, so that looks about right. Right, so now you can see here, I'm actually going to move this down a little bit so we can see this clearly. Right, so now we have just the outline of this building, right? The shadow of this building, if you will. This is what this building is going to. You can see if I go into edit mode, we've got all these vertices, yeah, I can talk. Laying it nicely, smooth curve, blah, 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 very nice. So now what I can do is to get so now we have this and we want to pull it up, right? We want to turn it into a 3D object from this 2D plane. So again, press A to select all, and E, and now I'm going to press Z to move it up and down. I don't know why my screencast keys aren't working. Interesting. Okay, pretend I didn't do that. Let's try and undo. Control Z is undo, obviously. So press A to select all, E, and then Z. And let's see, so we can just, how high do we want this to be? Like that? Does that look good? Whoa, wait. Oh, I actually never deleted these vertices apparently. So I'm going to press Alt-A to deselect all, and I'm just going to select these vertices and delete them, because, yeah. Alright, so here we are. Let's select the top faces again. There's multiple ways I could do this, but I'm just going to go to side view, and then I'm just going to box select everything on top. Right, head back into solid. And let's see, so do we want this to be taller? Do we want this to be shorter? I think a little bit taller. Right? Sweet, so this is kind of the, I'm just eyeballing it based on these photogrammetry models. Just part of the reason it's kind of nice to have photogrammetry models. If there weren't though, this method still works. You can just find pictures on Google Images or whatever you're trying to build. And you just need that top view, which Google Maps should almost certainly have, and you can kind of eyeball it from there. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So the next step is, you can see that this building has some parts that jut out. You've got here, you've got here, you've got here, here, here. And so the next step is going to be actually building those. I'm not going to worry about these terminal blocks for right now. I'll make those in a separate object later. So the next step is going to be in order. Make the parts that jut out, make this thing, make this top halo crown thing, make these pillars, and then do materials. So glass, concrete, I guess that's plaster of some sort. Right. So let's do this one step at a time. So let's start with these parts that jut out. So remember that these I say remember. You don't have to remember. You can just check this out. So these parts that jut out have two different heights, right? You've got parts that jut out that are the same height as the whole building, and these parts that come up about maybe 2/3 of the way. So the thing is, I need to create faces in the mesh that I can then extrude out to create these parts that jut out. So what that means is I need faces that align with the intersection of the jutty out parts and the original thing. What does that mean? Here, I'll show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create another set of vertices that circles this mesh like that. I'm going to press Control R, which is the loop cut tool, which does that. I keep explaining what I do with words, but it's just easier, I would think, to just, if I just said what the tool is called and you saw what it did. But, right, so I'm just going to move that up about maybe 2/3 of the way. Looks about right. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back into face select mode, press 3 to do that. Right, and I'm going to select the faces that I want to jut out. So it's going to be these ones and then these on the top. So I can actually see this here. So the ones on top are, let's see, so we've got this, this, and this. So I want, right, those three and on top, plus I want one to this side. Is that right? Right. And you can see here, I keep on going back between looking at the reference image, looking at my model, and whoa, didn't mean to do that. Looking at my reference image, looking at my model, and looking at the 3D thing, because it's just easier to keep track of what I'm doing, where I'm going, all that good stuff. So have I selected the right things? Right, I think so. So now, let's go to the next next parts that jut out. And again, same process. So let's see, I want these two faces right here. You can see I'm just checking where you can see the parts that jut out in the top view here. And oh, I did that wrong. Right, so I'm just, it doesn't have to be exact, but, you know, try and get close enough. And I can see the parts that I'm selecting show up here. And I believe that here, right, so this part is also high. So I'm going to select this upper part there, just for accuracy. And then over here, I got maybe 1, 2 more. Right, so okay, so now I've selected all the parts that I want to jet out, and the same tool, my favorite tool, it would seem, extrude, and I'm going to extrude these out. And now I want to basically scale these up, so to actually like expand them. The problem is if I just press S as I would scale, it's going to go kind of crazy, and you'll see it even gets taller, right? It's scaling in the Z direction. So I wanted to scale it in the non-Z direction, S, Shift Z. Okay, I don't know why that Z didn't show up when I on my screencast keys. But anyways, that's what I just did. I just pressed S and then Shift Z, which scales it up on every axis except the Z axis. So now here we go. I have my jut parts, my parts that jet out. Yeah, excuse my incoherence. Right, I got my parts that jet out, and I've got the basic shape of my thing. I'm going to save my file. Oh, I haven't actually done this yet. So for right now, I'm just going to save it to desktop. I'll just call it KLGA terminal.blend. And that'll become more important once I get into my file structure, which I will when we talk about materials. But for right now, this is kind of just a Blender thing, so we'll worry about that. Right, so now let's see. What's the next step? What did I say? I need to make this. I need to make these windows here, like this area. But I kind of want to do this crown first, because I feel like... Right, that'll just be easier. Okay, so I'm going to do kind of the same process. Actually, I'm going to do pretty much the exact same process. I'm going to add a circle. Right, okay, let's move this down. Scale X, just to make it a bit wider. Okay, have an edit mode. 1 to get vertices. Press O to select proportional editing. Whoa, that didn't do anything. O, proportional editing on. No, now it's on. And now when I move stuff, if I scroll with the scroll wheel to get this bigger, I can move multiple points at the same time and get my curves to line up nicely. Now here I can just align this one, right? And now I can select all the vertices I don't want, circle select, and then click and drag. Ooh yeah, oddly satisfying. That was a joke. All right, so now I've selected everything I don't want. Press X, delete vertices, here we go. All right, so now I have all my vertices in the right place. Press E, extrude them out, and now I'm going to, again, scale these. No, oh, I should turn off proportional editing. Right, and actually I can scale these like to here, GY, bring these back, and now I can actually proportionally edit these points. Turn on proportional editing, because again, I just want to get these curves to be in the right places. There, that looks pretty good. Again, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, we're just trying to do the best that can, right, best we can, without spending too much time on these little unnecessary details. Okay, this is not cooperating. Looks good. Alright, so now I'm going to move this up in my thing to where it would be in real life, and now you'll notice that this is again a flat planar thing. I don't know if that's the correct use of the word planar, but okay. Actually, this point is kind of jetting out a little bit in a way I don't like. Turn off proportional editing. I'm just going to manually move it to where I want it to be. And this is another thing you can always do. If you don't like stuff, move it. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is, this thing has some thickness. It's pretty thin, but it has some thickness. Right, so right there. So let's select the whole thing, extrude it down just a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. So now the thing is, oh, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Before I extrude it down, I want to, this thing is tilted, right? You've got like a raised edge here and lowered edge here. So So what I'm going to do is, before I even extrude it, I'm going to select this whole thing. What I did there is I press Alt-click, and that allows me to select the whole loop at once. Now I can move this up, GZ. Oh yeah. See that? Very nice. So now I've just moved this entire ring of vertices up, and now I can select this and extrude it down. Actually, right now, when I press extrude, it automatically tries to extrude it normal, right, perpendicular to the faces, and that looks pretty good. I like that. I'm happy with that. So now let's just get this in the right place. And again, if I don't like the way it is, I can actually go into face select mode, press 3. Actually, no. I can go into vertex select mode and just select both these loops, and I can move them down, up, around, whatever I want. I don't really care. Well, I do care. This is good. Cool. I am still speaking. Okay, so here we are. Yeah, like I said, it looks good. I'm happy with it. So now let's make sure that it's in the right place. Looks about right. Maybe move it down a little bit. Something does look kind of off though, right? I feel like it should be higher. Yeah, I think I should give it a little more slant. So I'll select these and I'll just GZ, move that up a bit. Cool. Again, I don't think anybody's going to even notice a difference here, but can't hurt. Right, okay, so now let's select the faces. Ooh. So again, to make these, I'm just going to create some faces that go below them and then extrude those up. So how do I do that? Again, same tools. Oh, why is OBS open? Okay, same tools as always. Loop cut, extrude. So Control R, loop cut here, and I create a loop this way. I'm going to go right about there. And I'm going to select the faces that I want to extrude. So I'm going to go. This one really doesn't matter because I don't even have a reference in the Google Maps image. I can't see where those windows are. I'm just going to pick some middle-ish faces. Right? Looks good. Extrude in the Z direction. So now you can see the problem is that it's, flat, and so some of it is sticking through. I'm just going to align those vertices so they align, and then I can go into vertex select mode, Alt select those vertices, and I can GZ move them down until they are no longer a problem. These ones are still sticking out. I'll Alt select all of these, and I'll move them down just a tad as well. Right, so now you can see those two things join together quite nicely. Looking good. I'm happy with this. Okay, so now we've got the basic shape. I said I wanted to do a few more things, right? And then we can start talking about some of the details that I like to add. Okay, so we've got these poles, right? Poles, are they like squares? No, they're cylinders. Okay, so we're just going to do Shift A, add a cylinder, SZ. This is really thin. So we're going to add S, Shift Z, and now, right, give it some more thickness. And now I'm going to, how am I going to do this? Okay, let's just move it to where it's supposed to be. So it starts at wherever my cursor is. So I press G to grab. I don't know if I've talked about the grab command at all, but it's useful. Just move stuff around. Also, I've just realized that you can see here that this actually hangs off the back of this building, and I don't like that. So I'm just going to cheat. I'm just going to move this in a little bit. No, am I going to cheat? No, I can actually just move these vertices with proportional editing. Yeah. I said that like a 50s commercial. With proportional editing. Now, previous movements of vertices. Okay. This, okay. Make this bigger. Man, I hope nobody watches this video. Make this bigger. Ooh, yeah. We'd love to see it. Again, I'm getting less accurate, but that's also because there is some, I'm allowed some freedom. Yeah. Okay. Okay, what am I, Canadian? Okay. Right, so we've got here, we want to get some sort of repetition. Ooh, this is actually a very cool trick that I know. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't understand what I'm about to do here, that's fine. You probably won't need to, but this is just a useful thing to know if you're doing stuff like this. I'm actually going to create a curve, a circle. And what this is going to do is I'm going to just copy and paste that pole, and I'm going to say just go at different intervals along this curve. And what that allows me to do is to then say, give me 1 second, sorry. Is I can then, instead of having to manually place each of these poles under this halo thing, I can just say, okay, computer, you do the work. And in general, if you can make the computer do the work, you should make the computer do the work, because that's less work for you, and less work is good. Right. Okay, so now I've got a curve, and this just matches, as you can see, so this matches the curve of that halo thing, and this is going to be what you'll see. Okay, so now I'm actually going to click U, and I'm going to create an array. I'm going to add an array modifier. What this does is this just creates more poles. I can up the number of poles. I can up their orientation. I can change their orientation from each other. So for now, I'm just going to put this in the Y direction. Doesn't really, whoa, okay. Doesn't really matter, because this is going to change very shortly. And after this, so now I've created a bunch of poles. I'm going to add a curve modifier. I'm going to select my curve object, and now you can see it is bugging out. Yeah. All right. Why are you not happy? So again, I don't really understand this, to be honest. But basically, it's trying to somehow put all of these things, oh, I see the problem. It's trying to put all these poles on this curve, but I think that these are actually in the wrong direction. So I'm going to make this, right, so now you can see they're following a curve, okay? They're not following the correct curve yet, but with some tweaking, they will. What is going on here? What does my curve look like? Now I'm very confused. Yeah? What's your deal? So if I go into edit mode, where is my thing? Right, none of these, I'm just gonna try this again. If I move this onto the curve, then will you be happy? Okay. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna ditch this whole array thing, because I think that might be causing my problems. Let's just try moving this. Where is it? Okay, this is supposed to be a cool trick, but this is the problem with working with stuff you don't really know yet. Oh, it doesn't seem to know where the curve. Wait, let me try. If I apply scale, apply location. I'm just trying some troubleshooting, and this is part of it. Right, whenever you do anything in Blender, you're going to run into issues. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, okay, I have no idea what happened. Just pretend you didn't see anything. Circle, gone. Basically, that is a way that you could have done it if you knew how to do that better than I did. But I clearly was more than a little out of my depth there. I hope you can forgive me. Alright, let's get back to where we were before. Yikes. Okay. Let's just move this here. And also, that was a good reminder that I am by no means perfect or even particularly good at Blender. As in, I can do what I do, but I'm not, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I'm constantly learning new stuff too. So if you know some cool tips or tricks that you think I could have used but I didn't, please let me know, because there's a good chance I don't know them. In fact, a lot of this stuff I'm going to show you later, especially when it comes to like making windows and stuff, are things that are a way easier way to do them than I would have previously done in the past. And I've only learned how to do those in like the past month or so. Alright, so now we're just going to do this the boring way. Shift D is a duplicate, and now I'm just going to move this like here, then Shift D. See, this is what I was trying to avoid earlier, but, you know, the best laid plans of yeah, you know the quote. Okay, and I just want to get these so that they're in the right places. Okay, I don't know why I even said that, obviously, but yeah. And then let's put one more at the end of these raised window thingamajigs. Shift D and then Shift Z moves the duplicated object on everything but the Z axis. Okay, where am I putting this? Okay, and then let's add some more like here. Okay, and we just want these to be so that they intersect that overhang on top. Perfect. All right, so now we've got this. This looks pretty good, actually. I'm pretty happy with this so far. So this is our basic model, so let's save that. And now it's time to add just a few more details. So one of the easiest details I like to add is, actually, let's do materials first, and then we'll do details, because details and materials go together in a way that I will show you in just a, whoa. They go together in a way that basically you'll see. I could explain it, but again, you will just understand, hopefully. Right, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just lining up some of these because like these skewed vertices don't look realistic because they aren't. So I'm just trying to make these nice 90-degree angles. Right angles are generally better. And I'm also just aligning these with where they should be because I guess I didn't do a very good job of that earlier. Okay, great. So now let's talk materials. What are materials? Materials is what gives this thing color, what makes it look from this white thing into a more exciting object. What makes Microsoft's materials special? Basically, they use this thing called PBR. PBR materials don't just have a color, right? When you think texture, you think just, oh, project an image onto a mesh. But these called PBR materials. PBR materials have not just images like colors projected onto them, they also have roughness, metallic, other textures projected onto them. And what that means is you have actual dynamic materials, right? You don't just have colors, you have things that are shiny, you have things that are rough, you have things that are smooth, you have things that are dull, you have things that are bumpy, all the way that they would be in real life. And it makes okay models look great. So, right, I'm going to show you how I do PBR materials. It may not be the best way to do them, but it works. You do need Substance Painter, which is expensive, but I have a free student subscription, so if you have that, I suggest you do it. If you don't, I believe there are other ways to do it, but I am not qualified to speak on them, so I will not. And even if you don't have Substance Painter, you can do what I do, although you won't be able to make PBR textures. You can still project the albedo textures, color, onto your model, so you'll still get some pretty good results. And if I'm feeling generous, / if I remember to do it, I will put all the PBR textures that I use up for you guys to download, because things like glass and concrete are pretty universal, and so it'd be kind of nice for you guys who don't have Substance Painter to have nice PBR textures that you can just throw into your things, because I've already done the work. So if I remember, I'll do that. If I don't remember, yell at me in the comments and I will get on that. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to head over to 3dassets.one. This is a great website. It's free, and what they do is they just have a bunch of PBR materials. Like I said, so if we look at one of these, so these are all different materials that we could add to our object. So if I look at this, for instance, this is a material, right? You can see this is what a sphere with material looks like. And in this zip file, there exists an albedo texture, roughness texture, smooth, metallic texture, ambient occlusion, a bunch of other stuff. If you don't know what I'm saying right now, it really doesn't matter. You just have to do what I do, and you'll understand it as you become more familiar with modeling and materials. So I've already done this, so I'm not going to download this, but I'll show you what I do then. So basically, if I hop over into Substance Painter, where's Substance Painter? Substance Painter's here. Like I said, I've already done this, so your steps won't be exactly the same as mine, but I'll try and make it clear what you should do. Okay, I don't really care. It keeps complaining, not really sure why. Okay, here we go. I do want to download this, but I'll come back to it. I'll do it later. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I've actually created before, I have a plane. So I've created a plane. It's just a plane, like not an airplane, like a mathematical flat 2D object. And I've exported it as an FBX from Blender to Substance Painter. And what this does is, the way Substance Painter works is, there's probably a better way to do this, but I really don't know Substance Painter, so I'm just hacking it. Is this just gives me a canvas that I can do my materials on, and then I can export those materials to Blender. What does that mean? I'll show you. So I'm going to delete this, and so if you had downloaded those concrete textures, for instance, what you do is you click here, import resources, you'd add resources, and then you'd find whatever your thing, and then you would click open, and then you would change. Actually, I should be able to. Right. So if I were to say I have all of my, oh, what did I just do? Okay. I'll show you what I would do. So I saved all my textures for my Washington, D.C. project in this folder. Right, so what I could do is I could select these 3 images. These aren't what yours look like, I know that. But what you would do is you open them here, you click texture, texture, and texture, and then you'd say shelf. Or you could do current session, and then you click import. I'm not going to do this because I already have them imported, but that's what you would do. Okay, cool. Now hopping over into here, I've already deleted that earlier layer, that paint layer, and I'm going to add a new fill layer. Fill layer just means that you have one material over the entire thing, I think, and I'm going to go into textures, and I can find all of the textures I've imported. So you can see here I have every single texture I've imported for all my projects, which is a lot, but you know, that's what makes them good. So okay, I'm going to take my albedo texture, which base color, right? I'm going to drag that over this base color node, right? So now you can see my my plane has a concrete look, but you'll see it's still very flat. And this is what I'm saying, as in here we've got an image here, and oh, it looks like concrete, but it really doesn't, right? As the light changes, it looks extremely flat. And if you put this in the sim flight simulator, which looks so great, it's going to look out of place. So if I add, for instance, but what if I add a roughness map? If I add a roughness map, it all of a sudden looks, you know, more realistic, right? We're getting somewhere. Now it doesn't just look flat. But how to make it really not look flat is let's add a height map, right? You can see we got some of the bumps, we get some of the crags. If I add a normal map, it'll look even better. And now here we go. We have pretty much a photorealistic material. And this is what PBR materials do, right? This is the difference between just having that albedo texture and actually getting the, you see the shadows move? Oh, it looks so good. I could do that for hours. Right, so now once we have this, we're going to go into export textures. And actually, you need a special plugin. I'll have a link for that in the description, made by one of the amazing guys over at fsdeveloper.com. It's a plugin that goes into Substance Painter. I'm not going to show you how to download it because there's other people who can do that. And what it does is it just takes everything that we want and it puts it in the correct format for Flight Simulator 2020. So once you have the plugin downloaded, like I said, link in the description. I'll try and remember to put it there. If it's not there, again, yell at me. I deserve it. Output template, I'm going to click FS 2020, scroll down, find FS 2020. And I'm just going to change this export folder to be wherever I want it to be. So for right now, let's just export it to the desktop. Actually, no, we're not going to do that. Now is a good time to talk about file structure. So I'm going to actually close this for now. I'll get back to it. And let's just talk about, so Flight Simulator 2020 needs a very specific file structure. I'm just going to do it and you'll understand what it is. So I'm going to call this KLGA. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm making LaGuardia ICAO KLGA. Just an easy way for me to keep track of what it is. All right, now here. Now I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to go to where I installed the SDK. You obviously need to have the Flight Simulator SDK installed. If you don't know how to do that, somebody else can show you how to do it. I'm not going to. Okay, local disk, Microsoft Flight Simulator SDK, cool. Samples, sample scenery, simple scenery. And now I'm in this folder, and you can see I actually have a shortcut to it here because I use it a lot. So I suggest you do that. And if I click here, just know that this is where that folder is on your machine. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste all this in here. This is just a sample scenery project that works. So that's why I'm using it, because it's just a good place to start. So now I have to rename everything to be what I want it to be. So scenery project, I'm going to rename to be KLGA, and this is the name of my project. Now if I edit it, I got to change all these mycompany.scene to be KLGA, and this is going to tell the compiler where all my files are within this thing. So I'm going to name this KLGA, and I'm going to name this XML also KLGA. And then inside this XML, if I click edit, I'm going to change mycompany-scene again to KLGA and KLGA, and then save. All right, so now that's pretty much that done. And that's actually, I remember thinking, oh, that's so much work. I'm going to delete this because I don't need it. But it's really not that hard. Somebody's even created a plugin, I think, that does all of this for you. You just need to give it your name, and it like makes everything. And that seems pretty cool, and I'm sure it works, but I don't know. I've gotten pretty fast at doing this, so I don't need to. Okay, delete everything inside model library. Now let's create a new folder, and let's just call it terminal. So this is the model library. So everything inside this, every object is going to be its own folder. So we'll create a, all right, actually terminal is not very descriptive. Let's just call this main terminal right. And that's what we'll write. So now let's actually save this Blender file inside that folder, just because it will, yeah, it'll be a useful thing for later. So if I save as, I'm going to go to that KLGA package sources, model library, main terminal, I call this KLGA terminal.blend, and save. Also, I just realized, I thought I'd fixed all of the weirdness, but I guess I hadn't. So that's kind of bugging me. All right. I'm actually going to rotate this a little bit just so it lines up better. I'm getting distracted. But this is also part of the experience. If you want to know how to do it, that's how you do it. Okay. Cool. All right. So now I've got this thing saved inside. I'm actually just going to close this because it's saved. And I've actually saved this to the desktop as well, I thought. Oh yeah, here. I'm just going to delete that because I don't need it anymore, because it's saved in here. Okay, heading back to Substance Painter. Actually, before that, I'm going to, inside this model library thing, I'm also going to create a folder called texture. Texture, all lowercase letters, enter. So now I've created that folder, and that would be very useful for us later, you'll see. So now in here, I like this. I like the way this material looks. I put in all my textures into here, and I'm going to do export textures. I'm going to set this folder to be that texture folder I just created. So KLGA, package sources, model library, texture. Okay? And also select folder and create FS 2020. So I could just do this, but I'm not going to because I've already done this before. So I'm just going to do that. But if you do this, this will put you in exactly the same position that I am in. So I'm just going to copy. I don't really care about you. That's my Substance Painter tutorial done. It's not very good, but it just shows you the basics, right? You get your PBR material files from the internet, and then you can just plug them into Substance Painter, and then, right, very easily. What am I doing? This is going to go, yeah, the Pittsburgh Bridges project is one I was working on, but honestly, the ones in the game aren't that bad. Kind of lost steam. Right, so I'm just going to copy these textures straight from here. And one thing to keep in mind is you want your textures to be named correctly. Named correctly doesn't mean you have any specific name. It just means you want it to be named in a way that you can immediately tell what they are, and in a way that none of them have the same names as each other. Because if they overwrite each other, then you're going to have problems. So here I have all my things with different names. I know exactly what these are: concrete albedo, concrete comp, concrete norm. And actually, let me just get my other textures. So I also have a glass material that I've created before. And so these are, yeah, like I said, I've plugged them into Substance Painter. I've plugged these into Substance Painter and I've gotten my thing. This one actually doesn't have an albedo texture because the albedo is just a flat color anyway, so I didn't need it. And this allows me to do some changes on the fly, as you'll see later. So I've got this. I've got I like the material for that halo roof thing. I've got this. I'm also just reusing textures from my previous things because this, saves me time. Easy. So I've got glass and I want metal, and metal is going to be what I make the window frames and stuff out of. I've got concrete, I've got window, I've got metal, and I've got what's the other thing? Roof, right? So I think this should be good for now at least. Worst case, I can add stuff later. And I'm going to head back into my Blender file, which is now in prod. No, it's not here. KLGA, package sources, model library, main terminal, KLGA terminal. Alright, so let's talk materials. How do I get this this object, to show my thing? The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to press Z and go to Material Preview. I'm actually in it already. And this shows me the material that it shows me what materials this thing currently has. So let's go here. This is the Material Editor tab, and let's click New. Let's give this thing a new material. All right, and so now actually we're gonna go straight to MSFS Material Params, and this comes with the Blender 2 MSFS plugin. Very amazing thing. The guy who made it is a genius. Same guy who made the Substance Painter plugin at fsdeveloper.com. I forget his name off the top of my head. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Again, if I forget to, yell at me. I deserve it. But the guy did a great job, and I don't know what I would do without him. I probably would be making a scenery for Flight Simulator. Okay, anyways, but this is the thing that comes with that Blender 2 MSFS plugin. And I'm just going to select MSFS Standard. Okay, and now this is just white, it's flat. So let's give it our textures. So let's think, actually, what does we want this to be? Let's just start with this being concrete, right? We've got the roof and stuff of this building is kind of a concrete thing. And then we can worry about the glass and the metal stuff next. So let's do that. So I'll call this concrete here, just so I know exactly what this material is. And texture maps. Albedo, I'm going to find my texture folder. And I'm going to do concrete albedo. I'm going to do, you can see the material changing as we go. And I will also show you the next thing. Now, if you were me, you would be thinking, wait, but this isn't what it looked like, right? This is just a flat color, but that concrete thing had all those different colors, right? It had differences in texture. So what's up? Basically, there's a thing called a UV map. To figure out what that is, I'm going to go into UV editing. I'm going to open this in edit mode. So let's go back to material preview. Select this, open in edit mode. And a UV map is just basically a projection of this thing onto a 2D surface. And that will basically project those images back onto this material. Again, I could keep talking, but what does that mean? I'm just going to show you. Basically, I need this thing to have a better UV map. Right now, it's only looking at a point. I'm going to select all, I'm going to press U, do Smart UV Project. There are probably better ways to do this, but this makes the computer do the work, and I like that. So now you can see each of these faces shows up as a face on here, and whatever's in the face on here shows up on the object over here. All these details look really big, so I'm going to scale this up here, so that way we've got more detail per face. Right. And now we've just got everything that's concrete. Another thing to remember is this is going to look kind of flat here, because in Blender doesn't do the differences in roughness and bumps as well as Flight Simulator does, but this should look pretty good in Flight Simulator. But obviously this is a long way from done, so let's actually just make it a little bit bigger. Right. Let's just take a better look at this. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is we've got some light concrete here, and we've got some dark concrete here, and we've got this lip. So let's do the lip now. And this is where the details I was talking about earlier. So let's select, this is a very easy thing to do for all buildings, and it really, well, it adds just a little bit more detail. It makes things more visually interesting to look at. Could I press Alt? Will that, no, that selects even what's on the bottom. So I'm just going to select all the faces I want to make my lip out of. And if you don't really understand what I'm describing, it should be evident once I do it. Like if you don't know, oh, what's a lip? What's he trying to do? Hang on. Alright, so now we're going to use a very cool tool, which we're going to be using a lot later, that I learned about very recently, the inset tool. Oh, I just realized my keystrokes aren't on. Sorry about that. If I press spacebar, there we go. I don't know how long I was doing that, my bad. But we haven't really done anything, so I don't feel too bad. Okay, so I'm going to press I to inset. And you can see it's just basically pushing my faces in. I've created, it's like I have a loop cut, but it's just going in a little bit. It's just so pretty. Alright, perfect. Now I'm going to extrude these down a little bit. And there, now I've created my lip. You see that? Just like that. And now, with these faces selected, if I go back to Google Maps, you can see this is kind of a darker thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set these to be their own material. I'm going to create a new material here. I'm going to assign this. Now, if I deselect and select this, you can see that these are their own material. And now, actually, so I want this to be pretty much just like the concrete. I just want it to be darker. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to actually select this material to also be concrete. And I'll press this button to make a copy. So now this is a copy of the concrete material. Now it's tempting because this option exists. If I just click albedo color and I make this like darker, it darkens this. But this does not work in the simulator. The simulator will just show this as being the same because it doesn't read both this albedo color and the texture map. It only reads one or the other. So I'm actually going to delete this albedo texture map. And so this is going to be a flat color. And that looks kind of, it's sad because if possible it would have been nice. You could Photoshop it as well, but it's a lot of work for something that really is kind of a small detail. But this should still have the same bumps. It should have the same roughness changes that the other one had. It's just going to be a slightly different color. So that looks pretty good. Again, it hopefully will look better in the sim. I keep promising that. I can't guarantee that. Okay, save. And right. I really like this lip. Okay, let's add a ellipse. Let's add lips to these things here. And you can see like a lot of roofs and just top spaces have them. And they're so easy to do with this inset tool because without the inset tool, they'd be like a whole pain. You'd have to select the things, you'd have to extrude, scale them inward. I don't even want to talk about it. Okay, we're going to inset these faces just like that, extrude them downward just a little bit. And now you can see while we still have all of these faces selected, I can assign them to concrete 001. Actually, let's call this darker concrete, just so I can keep track of what all my materials are. Very cool. Now we get to go to the fun part. The fun part is the glass in the metal. So what do I want the glass in the metal to be? Let's see. So I want it to be all of these faces and all of these faces. But I don't actually want... Actually, what does the back of this terminal look like? Oh, that's also glass and metal. Ho ho. The first time I tried this, I actually didn't pick up on that. But basically, I just want these glass and metal, these glass windows to stretch all the way around. So now with these selected, I'm just thinking about how I want to do this. Okay. Yeah, it should be fine. So this is a very quick and easy way to make these windows that I learned recently. And this works for these big steel and glass like buildings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the faces I want to turn into windows. And I'm going to press right click, then click subdivide. Now you can see it's turned all of my faces into slightly smaller faces. But one thing I don't like actually is I don't like how these faces are... Basically when I subdivide, it's going to subdivide all of these and all of these. And because these are already smaller, it's going to make a bunch of smaller faces. What does that mean? I could explain it, but I could just show it. I'm basically just going to divide this up evenly so that way all my windows are even. And I'm going to select all of the faces I want to turn into the steel and glass thing. And if you're wondering about these top windows, I'm going to do those separately because those are slightly different. Okay, I'm going to click subdivide. And now you can see I've created all of these different faces, and each of these faces are going to become their own window. If I wanted to make these windows even smaller, I could click this and subdivide these all the way down. But I don't really want to do that, so I don't think I will. If I click smoothness, what does this do? Yeah, it does something. It doesn't really do what I want it to. So how many windows do I need? Maybe one. This isn't going to be, these windows are not going to be too accurate. I'm just going to say it right now. Maybe one more subdivision, so I'm going to actually undo that. Let's try this. 1, 2. Right, I kind of like the look of that, right? It looks kind of modern, but also a little old, so look where I am. And now what I'm going to do with all these selected is I'm going to inset each one of these faces individually. Now, am I going to select each face, inset it, and then select another face, and then inset and select another face? No, I would rather, like, die. But I'm going to press I twice, inset, and then one for inset and one for individual, and now I can, actually, before I do this, it's easiest right now is I'm going to set this whole thing to metal. So I'm just going to create a new thing. I'm going to call it metal. It doesn't actually look like metal right now, but I can worry about it later. So I've created this metal object, and now I'm going to inset all of these individually. And the reason why I made that metal is so that it makes all of these edges between these windows metal. So now if I assign these to be a new thing called glass, right? So now I can deselect glass, and if I select metal, you can see I've selected all of the window frames. It's a super quick trick, and it's a very easy way to make these steel and glass things. So now, how do I turn this into metal? I'm going to go into MSFS standard, and you saw when I moved in those metal textures earlier, I've got a metal albedo, I've got a metal comp, and the metal normal I honestly don't even need, so I'm just going to leave it out because it's useless, right? Metal doesn't have any sort of bumps. Normal maps do bumps. Or metal might have bumps in real life, but I don't need this metal to bumps. And you can see it's kind of shiny. If I go to glass, I have my glass material. I don't have an albedo texture for glass, so I'm going to leave that blank. Glass comp goes there, and glass norm goes there. You can see I'm getting some nice reflections on my glass, and let's just turn this into, in this thing, they look dark blue, so I'm going to do that, like a dark bluish green almost, like there, and bring that all the way down. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Like, if you just look at this, it won't look the most realistic, but it will more than do the job for this kind of scenery development. Now, one thing is, once we have this glass, we want to make this glass light up at night. And this is one thing I've done in all my scenery so far, and I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to turn this emissive. Emissive means it gives off light. So whenever you click anything on this emissive, it immediately tries to set this value to 4.87. I'm going to turn that down here. And then notice that now my thing isn't black. Don't worry about that. It won't show up black here. It's going to show up whatever color the light is. But that's fine. So now this thing, we've set it to light up yellow, but we only want it to do that at night. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to click day-night cycle. And now this thing is set so that this material will light up at night, but it will stay that dark blue in the daytime. Now let's create these windows up here. I'm going to do kind of the same process I did earlier, except now I just want to subdivide these along this way. You see what I'm saying? I want these to be the whole height, and I just want to chop them in halves because these are pretty tall windows. So what I can do is if I select, if I go to wireframe, if I select these edges, whoa. If I select the edges that make up this face, okay. Again, I could keep talking, or I could just shut up and do it and show you. Show, don't tell, right? That's what every English teacher says. Okay, so now I've selected these two edges, right, that make up these faces. This is another trick I learned recently. If I subdivide these edges, then it creates this. So now I've subdivided the faces lengthwise, but not height-wise. So now with all of these selected, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn these into metal. And then I'm going to insert individually. Press I twice to do that. And then glass. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. And here for these, I'm just going to set these to be, actually no, let's do this material as well. We're going to call this halo roof. Again, the names don't really matter. It's just, for me, MSFS standard. I don't have an albedo texture for that. Oh, okay, this actually is a cool thing. So you'll notice when I did that, some of my faces disappeared, right? My mesh looks all wonky. How do I fix that? How do I do this? Basically, what it's doing is every face has data on which way it's pointing. It tries to render stuff that's... Basically, it only renders faces from one direction. If you look at stuff from the back, it will try its best to not render it, and if it does, it'll look kind of weird. What you want to do is basically, you want to align the normals, or you want to fix the normals. What are normals? I don't know. Look up, I mean, I do know. I could explain it, but just don't ask. Okay, I'm going to click Alt-N. So with my faces selected, right, this is everything that looks weird. You can see, right, you can see that it doesn't look like the shape it's supposed to. I'm going to press Alt-N, recalculate outside, and now it looks like it's supposed to. I did a really bad job of even avoiding that question, especially because I asked it. But whatever. So I don't have an albedo texture for this, and I don't even want to use the normals. I'm just going to use cap roof comp, and this should give it kind of some sort of metallic, dull shine. And I want this to just have a hint of blue. It's purple. Right, a grayish blue. And I'm going to set even these poles to be the same thing. And a cool trick that I know is if you select, so say I want all of these poles to be the same material, but I don't want to have to go through and select all of them and then say, oh, okay, so make you this material, make you this material. I can just select everything I want, and then I can select the, actually I want U2, and U as well. And if I select the one that already has material last, I can press Control L, link materials. Now, they should all have the same material. Look at that, very nice. Right, so now let's head into Flight Simulator. This could take a while. I was hoping I wouldn't have to edit this, but I don't want you guys to have to sit here through the whole load up process. Okay, actually, there are a few things I can do in the meantime. So, now that I have this asset, which honestly looks a lot better than the first time I did it, I'm kind of happy I redid this. I can, actually, I'm debating what, I don't really like this thing being concrete. And I have some creative license, so I can just kind of do whatever I want. Sue me. And I'm actually going to just turn this to be that halo roof as well. Blend it nicely there. So now, once we have this all done, we're going to select all the objects that we want to export into Microsoft Flight Simulator. Did I not change this? So I'm going to press A to select all because I want all of this stuff to go in. Actually, no. Delete this light. This light can cause problems. So that light is gone. It comes as default with every scene, so make sure you delete it. Okay, I'm going to select all my objects, press A to do that. File, export, and this is that, or I should make that more clear. File, export. This comes with that plugin that I said earlier, so you're going to have to get that to do this. Okay, it's still loading. We're going to call this KLGA terminal, and we're saving this inside that. So okay, let's start at the top. So inside KLGA, inside package sources, inside model library, inside main terminal. So the same folder that my Blender file is saved in, I'm going to save this here. I'm going to call it KLGA terminal. Make sure you remember this name. It should be something distinctive because this is what it's going to show up as inside Flight Simulator. This is important. .. texture lowercase. This refers to that same folder that we were talking about earlier. I'm just going to click remember export textures for later. Generate append XML. You need to do this, and then the name here has to be the same as the name here. And we're going to click generate GUID. And this is basically going to be the way that Flight Simulator does something. Not really sure. Include selected objects. I'm going to apply modifiers. I didn't even use modifiers, but just whatever. I'm going to export extended GLTF. Wait, oh, I didn't even have the object selected. I'm going to do that again with the object selected. And then, now that I've remembered export textures, I don't even need to worry about it. Okay, so we're just going to hop into LaGuardia. I'm going to click fly. Okay, so now, one thing I'm going to do is, okay, shut up. If I go to where I installed the SDK, this PC, this local disk, MSFS SDK, tools, bin, there's a thing called FS package tool. I'm going to copy and paste this into here. And this is the compiler. This is what's going to turn this into something that the flight simulator can use. So I'm going to click and drag this into there, and I'm praying to God that it doesn't give me any errors. Because sometimes when it gives you errors, there's been a few times it gives me errors and I don't know how to fix them, and then I just have to start over. So I'm praying that that doesn't happen here. Okay, we're just waiting for this to do something. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. Did I do this correctly? Okay, sometimes it takes a while. So, yeah, we're just gonna let it be for a few minutes. And so basically the plan from here is I'm gonna show you guys how to, if this package builds, which I'm really hoping it does, I'm going to show you guys how to get that into the sim. I'm going to show you guys how to save that. I'm going to show you guys how you would then build that package to then distribute and post on whatever your favorite scenery sharing website is. So we can just chill out in LaGuardia and admire how much fixing it needs. So let me just... Okay. So LaGuardia, yeah, LaGuardia needs some work. You can see that here we've got jetways that don't connect to any terminals. Here we've got terminals that don't really do anything. And yeah, it's just not really having a great time. But I gotta say, I am impressed with these autogen buildings. I honestly quite like them. And my buildings aren't gonna have nearly this level of detail in like the windows, and like you see that? It's like a transformer box. Yeah. I'm not going to have that. But my scenery definitely is a lot more accurate, and I think it has its place. If you don't agree, that's fine. Actually, if you don't agree, you probably shouldn't have watched an hour and 7 minutes of this video. But basically, okay, what's taking so long? The reason is, what it's doing is it's actually taking every image file, every texture file that we've given it as a material, and it's converting it into something that it can use. And image files are large. There's a lot of data, and so it's kind of combing through those images, and it can take quite a while, especially if you have bigger packages. For my Washington D.C. package, it took me like 10 minutes to compile, but it seems to get there eventually. Okay, let me also just take a quick scope about what else I need to do. So what is this thing here? I'm just trying to understand what it is I need to make next after this. So this, these are the American Airlines hangars. And then we got a parking garage here, which I might not even fix, because that actually looks pretty good. Oh, you know what? Flight Simulator must have a parking garage object that I can just use. That's another thing. For a lot of these like random buildings, like if you just have like an unmarked hangar, like a small thing, you don't need to make custom objects for that, obviously. Huh, this is photogrammetry. I guess it makes sense because New York is all photogrammetry. It almost brings up the question of why they didn't use photogrammetry for these terminals. Because it's there, right? I'm kind of glad they didn't, though. It would have been... You'd have a bunch of like weird polygons and like sloppy models and stuff. I wish I knew how to make my glass look quite like theirs. 'Cause my glass is good, but look at how like nice and like realistic theirs looks. And if I turn this to night, you get these nice light up. But this is one thing that our model should, I say our model, your model and my model should do nicely, is light up at night. And that's, there should be other ways to make these more dynamic. Like I know you can add animations with these Blender 2 MSFS plugin, but I'm not familiar with that at all, so I cannot really speak. I gotta say, this is taking longer than I expected. Usually it's not quite this long. Okay, actually, one thing that we can do a little bit ahead of time. Actually, we can't even do that, so I'm not gonna mention it. Yeah, I'll try and edit this part out because that's just me sitting here waiting. But to be honest, I don't really want to do any editing, so I might just be lazy and say skip to whenever the thing ends. So if I do that, I apologize, but you know, them's the breaks. Okay, so let me just try and familiarize myself a little bit more with how I do this. And in fact, you know what's a good thing I could do here? Is I can show you how I would approach each of these buildings. Because it's very easy with these tutorials for me to just say, okay, that's how I made that building, goodbye. But sometimes it's when you're looking at a building or an object, and you're like, how do I even make this, right? So let's start with this. How would I make this? How will I make this? I'm going to start with a plane. I'm going to look at the, yes! 0 failed. That's what we like. I'm actually going to do this quickly. So how would I do this? I'd start top view, make a plane, and I'd move the vertices around, loop cuts and whatnot, so that I get the outline of this. Then I would extrude that up, and I would move the vertices around so they're in the right places, and then I would do my window trick for the windows and make a material here. Here, I'd probably make a lot of different, I'd start the same way, make the outline, extrude it up to here, and then for some of these top things, I would have to do loop cuts here and then extrude them out and like scale them down to make this. Or I could just make more, like I could make another like cube, scale the top down and just stack it on top of that. So there's lots of ways to skin a cat, lots of ways to solve this as well. But now that my package is built, I can click open project. That's my other KLG project which did not work. And I can go into desktop KLG and open this XML file. Now this is the fun part. If I click this, I click my scene, view, open inspector, which claims it's already open. Ah, here it is. I can click load in editor. Insert to go to dev cam, or to go to the drone cam, which I'm just using. And I'm going to add a big rectangle. And this is just going to delete all of the other buildings that are here because I don't need them. So I'm going to turn off terraforming and click exclude buildings. Great. Scenery, and now the scenery here will have the same name as the XML that we exported, and that was called a KLGA terminal or something. Here it is. Ta-da! There it is. There's our building, and that's like, it always blows my mind. It blows my mind? Does it really blow my mind? Yeah, it does. But my scenery always looks a lot better in the sim than it does in Blender. And that's partly because you get the nice reflections, you get the nice textures and stuff. But why is it trying to terraform? I told you not to terraform. There. I don't understand what's happening. It's kind of bugging out, but not my problem. Right, so we can see here, this is my thing. I can place it like that. If I wanted to rotate it or zoom it, I'd middle mouse button click. I could get those different things to show up on the gizmo, as it's called. Right, so here we go. This is our model. It's kind of blue, so one thing I can do is I can actually edit this on the fly. So what I can do is I can go into Blender. If I say, okay, that looks kind of blue. Let me make this a little bit, let me make this a little bit blacker. I'm going to just turn down the saturation. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. Now I can select all again, and if I export this, it'll actually update. No, wrong thing. It'll actually update my thing on the fly. Now I will warn you, sometimes it won't update, and that's because there's a problem with your model. If the compiler doesn't like your model, finds a problem with it, it won't automatically update, and if that's the problem, then you've got other things to worry about. But anyways, so here you can see we've got our reflections in our window, you can see that this isn't just a flat texture, right? You've got some sort of variation. It does look kind of flat, I will say. But you've got some variation in roughness, you can see here. And even if it looks kind of flat from far away, it won't make a difference. And this is already a great asset. I'm actually very happy with this for Flight Simulator. Now, the best part, in my opinion, if we go into nighttime, oh yeah, you see that? That's that day-night cycle emissive texture stuff we were talking about. This is a little bright, so I might turn it down. I'm just going to go into emissive color, turn the value down a little bit. Also, it's quite yellow. Let's turn down the saturation. Okay, Control S, save. Good thing to save your changes. Blender does crash from time to time. Good thing to have. So now this will export, and you can see we've got, it's actually just as bright as before. I'm not sure if that value did anything, but even if it didn't, that's okay. Right, as you can see this roof, I'm not sure what it's reflecting. Oh, it's reflecting here. That's pretty cool. No, this doesn't make sense. Anyways, it's got its own shininess to it. If I make it daytime, it's got a nice texture. It is a little bit blocky though. Okay. I'll just leave it. I like it. So I'm very happy with this. Like, I've said this like 4 times now, but I say this because I tried making this earlier and it was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I guess I already made it, so. But no, this is a lot better than that one. So I'm happy with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Save Scenery. Save it in Package Sources Scene. I'm going to call this KLGA Scene. It doesn't really matter what you call this, just call it something. And it's actually sticking out of the ground a little bit. Wait, maybe I'll just terraform. Yeah, that's right. Bow to my will. And let's make this so that it's actually on the ground. Oh, it's snapped to ground. So I'm going to turn off snap to ground, and now I can actually move it up and down. Cool. So this is great. I'm going to click Save Scenery. And now what I'm going to do is say that my scenery is done. Say that I'm done. My thing is perfect. I know exactly what I want to do. As in, this is everything I wanted to build. I want to go put this up on the internet and get millions of people to sing my praises and donate to my PayPal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save scenery, like I said. I'm going to click back here. I'm going to click my project name. I'm going to click Build Package again. This should take less time than it did the first time I built package, because now it's not compiling the model. Actually, because I updated this on the fly and I gave it a new, and I changed like the colors of the glass and stuff, this is actually going to take a while because it has to recompile the whole model. But if you didn't do that, this would be pretty short because it's already compiled the model and it's just going to put what you already had in the folder. But because it's recompiling, it's going to take a little bit. So while that's happening, I can just show you what you would do next. Actually, another thing I want to show you. Say that you have another object, right? You have one more thing. You crap. Okay. Say that I have another object, right? Say that I have a cube as well. Actually, one thing I'm going to do, one thing that I find is good practice, is I'm going to select all of this stuff, right? All these different objects that have been moved into my main terminal GLTF file. Let me just save these as one collection, so that way if I ever need to modify the main terminal GLTF, I can just select all of them easily. I'm going to select everything I want, press M, and I'm going to move to a new collection. We're going to create a new collection called main terminal. I'm going to save. And for now, let's just hide that. And if I want to bring it back, I can just click that. If I want to select everything in it, I can just right-click, select objects. Very nice. But for now, let's just delete that, or not delete that, let's hide it. And say that I also want to add this cube, right? It doesn't matter what the object is. Say you also have another object that you want to add to. Okay, this worked. So I'll come back to that in a second. Here we have 0 failed again. We like that. So now, now that we've built this package again, we actually have our final distributable thing. If I go into my KLGA folder, packages, KLGA. This is what you want to copy and paste, or this is what you want to upload to a flightsim.to and MSFS add-ons.org thing, because that, if you move it into your community folder, will spawn this scenery in the game. So that's pretty cool. And one other thing you should do, actually, which I didn't do because I am an idiot, is when you build the package, you should put in your company name. So for instance, I'll put Srinivas Man, creator Srinivas Man, and title KLGA LaGuardia International. I assume it's international airport, right? They probably fly to Canada or something. Right, so I'm going to build this package. And so, what was I saying? Right, so say I want to add another object to the scene, right? So I will be, when I add my other terminals and stuff. So what would I do? So I'm going to create this thing. I say that I have a bunch of different cubes, actually, just because I can. Oh, yeah, look at cube party. Yeah, look at all these cubes. Okay, so all of these cubes are going to be my terminal 2. So I'm going to move these to a new collection called terminal 2. This isn't actually, you don't have to do this, just easier for me. And now the way I'm going to export these is I'm going to go File, Export, MSFS. Say that these objects work. And here in this model library folder, I'm going to create a new thing called a terminal 2. And now inside terminal 2, I'm going to save this as whatever I want to save it as. I'll just save this terminal 2. And in MSFS here, I'm going to choose this terminal 2. And now if I export this and I rebuild the package, you have to rebuild the package. And then once you rebuild the package, you have to open up the project again. So basically you just close the scenery editor and then you close the project editor and then reopen the project editor. You should be able to find your terminal 2 object in the scenery library. I'm not going to do that because I don't have any use for these cubes. So all these can die. And let's hope this thing is finished. Okay, it is finished. Right. So now if I go to my folder, inside here I've got a Srinivas Man -KLGA. This is my package. This can go into a community folder on any flight simulator, and this will spawn this building and this rectangle and all of my scenery in their flight simulator. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, give me a sub, or don't. I don't really care. But if you want to support me, support my work, support more tutorials, please, I'd really appreciate it if you donate to my PayPal. If you have any questions, any comments, any complaints, do leave a comment. I'll try and get to them. I'll also try and make sure I've added all the links in the description that I claimed I would, but I had a lot of them, so I might forget. So get on me about that. So yeah, that about does it for this tutorial. I might do some more tutorials if there's a need, but I honestly have pretty much given you all of the knowledge I have about the Blender to MSFS plugin, what you can do with it. There's definitely more you can do with it that I don't know about, so please tell me. But yeah, that does it for this. So thanks for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.